All right, you're watching the Eeez N Beez Brunch. It's me, Eddie B, and I got my best man, Brian. How's it going, Brian?
What's up, man? Doing good, doing
Yeah.
good.
All right, if you're keeping up with us, what we're doing is the Monday Wars. Me and Brian have been wanting to do this for a long time. We're going through week by week, show by show, comparing notes, comparing matches, comparing shows to each other. The last week was the very first week, and I had a great time doing it with you. We're obviously touching down here week two right away, back to back. Before we get into the second week, Brian, what was your final thoughts on week one?
Like I said on the last week's show, basically, not a lot of content in the Raw matches. WCW definitely gave you a real show. You could tell being live definitely played to their advantage. Definitely more adult themed, more serious. Um, WWF still not giving a lot away on TV. Lots of tape stuff, lots of teasers, lots of kind of cheesy comedy. The one beef I guess I would have with the WCW, lots of false finishes, lots of run-ins. But that's I,
Yeah, I can agree 100%. And as this thing progresses, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more better matches and probably hopefully better booking. And wish my fingers are crossed. I don't completely remember all this, but for all you watchers out there, this is how me and Brian are going to do it. We're going to go episode by episode. And at the end of the episode, we're both going to rate what the episode would be by pieces of bacon. And to recap last week's episode, I gave the Raw two pieces of bacon. Brian gave it a half. And on Nitro, Brian gave it two pieces of bacon and I gave it two and a half. So we'll see how things change going forward. With all that said, Brian, let's jump right into it, dude. Let's get into Raw episode two, January 8th.
yeah, January 8th, 96. So second week of Raw in January. Let's see. The show starts out with the Shawn Michaels interview preview. Obviously, he's coming back from a concussion. They hyped that last week,
Yeah.
so we're gonna see what Sean says. They do a billionaire Ted teaser, and they also tease the $1 million champ, which is kind of hilarious to me.
I liked that belt, though. That belt was slick, bro.
It was a nice belt. So that's what they kind of open with. Match one, we have Hakushi versus Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Um, Jeff Jarrett has the guitar gimmick, which I think he does later. I don't
I
remember.
have written down right here, Brian. This is no joke. Awful HTM wannabe, which is honky tonk man.
It
no,
was
uh,
the
Jeff
knockoff.
Jarrett was a good talent, but yes, I think they're thriving off of that old theme of honky tonk man
Yeah.
and him being a country singer. This kind of works. So
Yep.
yeah,
They flash back with basically they're pushing the Ahmed Johnson Double J feud. I think they're going to fight at the Royal Rumble. Um, they flash back to In Your House. I think he had some assistance from Jerry the King Lawler. So they do a little flashback. Couple observations. Hakushi, crazy tattoos. I don't know if those were real, but he was
they are real, dude. I
tattoos.
don't know about the ones on his face, maybe not, but I'm pretty sure that those ones on his body were real.
Uh,
Hakushi, obviously from New Japan or Japan Wrestling, I don't know what it was called back then, but um,
yeah,
to talk about that real quick is something that you didn't see back then very often, or I guess you see it but you didn't think about it. Was the crossover,
yeah.
which is really big right now in wrestling, but we won't dive into that. But go ahead, sorry.
I thought he was a pretty good wrestler. I
Yes,
thought overall the match was pretty forgettable, though. Not the worst match, not the best match. Um, I did notice some comments from Jerry Lawler that would not be allowed nowadays,
dude. Yes,
and it just shows you the sign of the times today.
Yeah.
What was acceptable and was not acceptable. So yeah, I did write that down.
I have that on my side notes as well. I have that, and I have
Lawler,
Lawler is the best on commentary.
Lawler has some slightly racist comments towards Hakushi. Double J wins figure 4.
Yep.
Hakushi looked like he had lots of potential. I don't really know if the WWF did anything with him or they were just.
Well, they never really pushed him. I know he was used a few more times, but yes, to note on him, he was very talented. Maybe more talented than Jarrett. They just had to dumb him down.
No. That actually, that you say that, I did think he actually looked better than Jarrett in the match. It just, I fall asleep tonight, I'm gonna forget this match even existed.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, the only thing I can take from this was, let's just face it, this terrible outfit that he was wearing, Jeff Jarrett, and then the tattoos that he had. I mean, that's two things that I really had to, except for the fact that he was a good wrestler, but I knew that this was almost. But let's start this off before we get any farther, Brian. Like I talked about on the last episode, this is the start. This is what you're putting out there to start your show off. Yeah. I get that Jeff Jarrett. I don't know. What do you think? Was they trying to make him a face? Because to me, it didn't seem like the crowd was really behind him. No. But they really weren't behind Hakushi either because he's unknown or whatnot. It falls short on my book of you. If you're writing something for a competing brand, you're not putting these two wrestlers out first. I'm sorry. This in the middle would work. This won't work at front, in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't really get it's hooks in you, if you will. This would be definitely a channel flipper right here.
Boom. I was going to go back to what we talked about last week, and we're going to do that every time, Brian. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you, are you stopping on this channel or are you flipping? And I think I'm flipping today.
Flipping pretty quick. Shawn Michaels. At this time, I didn't watch it much. He would have been more, I remembered him being like a mid-Carter guy, so that definitely wouldn't have been enough.
He showed potential when we were kids growing up, obviously, and then when he split from Marty Jannetty, they pushed him.
Yeah.
Like I spoke on the last episode, you and I going through high school, obviously probably stepped away from wrestling more than most would as wrestling fans, and maybe even after high school, whatnot. But, to go back and watch this stuff, you could be pulled right back into that era. Remember what you're doing, what's going on, all that stuff. And I agree with you 100%. I don't think that he had potential. He was on the rise, but he was still a small guy,
Yeah, small guy. And just to me, without any context and watching it before, the interview, which, we'll get into the interview later, but it's borderline predictable the way that was going to go. There was really nothing to keep you interested or make you want to watch the rest of the show, to be honest with you, unless it was just something you.
Yeah, and I've got another one, a comment at the end that I feel it's what leads into this, but yeah.
So that was the first match, and then they do let's see, Royal Rumble preview. Jim Ross, I believe, does it. Mm-hmm. They show a Vader hype video.
And I wrote on my notes, how cool. I mean, that was one of the coolest things of this whole freaking episode, in my opinion.
Kind of funny, though. I thought it was he's just lifting weights and he's outside and stuff. But
yeah, definitely in Colorado where I'm at. But I just thought it was, he didn't give a promo. It was all video of him doing things and then saying, obviously it's Vader time. But dude, I thought with him, that's the only way you can promote him. You don't let him talk.
Agreed. Kind of the same thing with the Giant.
In that same category as we were talking last episode about the Giant, you take the fear out of people when you let them talk. They don't feel as he's as big as he really is.
Yeah. So that was that, and then they do a Scheme Gene. They kind of diss the hotline that he ran. So that was kind of the
so now this makes 2 weeks in a row with silly, the Huckster, the Nacho Man, $1 Billion Ted, and Scheme Gene, whatever they call him.
It
But
might have been last week, but I know Vince Russo played a character in one of those meetings. I could tell he's like wearing a wig or
yeah,
something.
it's in this one. It's at the end of this episode. Yeah.
Okay, so then we go to match number 2 is Ahmed Johnson versus Jeff Gretler. I think I said that.
Dude, I don't even know what his last name
So
was.
my first comment is, what is Jeff Gretler wearing? Are those Jinko flowered capri pants? Like I don't know what that is. Worst wrestling outfit I've probably ever seen. You're talking about Double J's outfit. This guy, how could you walk out in front of
I
people
want to know
wearing?
who in the back said, "Yep, that's a good one."
He looked at himself in the mirror and was like, "I'm killing it right now." Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the star of the match for me right there. Is
So,
his pants.
so basically, what you're telling me is you didn't see the squash part. You just saw Vance, and that was it.
Wrote Capri Jinko Joey Buttafuoco pants is what this said. Ahmed Johnson beats him in like 2 seconds. Total jobber match.
Yep.
This
Dude, did you see how? I mean, I know Ahmed Johnson is a body guy in this time.
Yeah.
Strictly, that's all he is.
Look good, yeah.
He looked great, but when he power bombs this poor guy, I'm surprised his head didn't pop off.
Yeah, he was not a very intimidating figure. I forgot to mention this last week. I'm kind of going in retrospect. We were talking about the Diesel Mabel match. And
yeah. The main event.
This last week, just to go back, the power bomb that Nash gave Mabel was atrocious.
Well, that goes back to that leads into what we said. You can't work with them dudes sometimes. They're too big. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was
and
huge.
when they can't help themselves, there's nothing you can do about it. Like we said, Yokozuna was, if you had to line him up one-on-one, they're going to take Yokozuna, even though he weighs more, because he's going to help him out and make him look way better.
A lot of it's about leverage and helping.
You got to know what you're doing. I mean, let's be honest. When you're that big and that much weight, you got to know what you're doing.
Last note, Jeff Jarrett attacks, misses. That's pretty much it. I did write that Ahmed Johnson is a beast. He did look like he could potentially be a superstar.
Yeah, they're building him up to be a killer for sure.
Yeah.
Or at least it looks that way.
Let's see. They do like a preview of a Undertaker Isaac Yankem match and a Marty Jannetty Owen Hart preview. I have that written down, so that must be the segue. Then we have the Ted DiBiase Brother Love interview.
Yep.
So they bring out the $1 Million Champion. The Ringmaster is who it's revealed, which obviously is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And this is a historic moment, honestly. Like, nobody really knew who Stone Cold was. Stone Cold was really popular in WCW on the Varsity Blondes with Brian Pillman. But then he also was very great as a singles wrestler. I mean, he hung around with probably the best fraction. And I posted it just the other day, but when he was with the Dangerous Alliance and, you had Rick Rude, Bobby Eaton. I mean, you just had killers around, Paul Heyman. Nobody really thought much about Steve Austin. And I have written at the top in my notes, after this, I'm pretty sure Bischoff was kicking himself in the butt or whoever when they realized they let go probably one of the greatest wrestling stars ever.
Well, I mean, he essentially.
I mean, I know it was his choice or whatnot happened between them, but to think about it now, like, man, if we could have realized what was gonna happen with this star, like, golly, what could it have been?
I mean, he pretty much was the guy that,
I mean, he set the table. He set the table or the bar, whatever you want to say, and I think he made everybody else better. Honestly, once his fandom started growing and stuff, he made everybody in the locker room a lot better.
Well, the thing with him was, when he was in his heyday, he was the biggest guy in the sport or whatever they
Right.
call it nowadays, entertainment.
I mean,
But
here he still has hair.
right, well, I have a comment on that too. I was like, he has a buzz cut. That was
Yeah. Well, as I was saying about the Dangerous Alliance, before he came to WWF, WWE, whatever, he had the ponytail still.
oh,
And
oh,
yeah, so he didn't cut his hair. And I think there's a story on it. I can't really remember. I'm pretty sure I heard it on one of his shows. But yeah, he didn't have the buzz cut till he came there. And then it wasn't, the buzz cut didn't last very long.
yeah. I think he maybe losing it slightly.
I
So
think so too. Yeah, if you look at it, obviously.
um,
But it was a great promo, I think, between brother. Anytime Brother Love's out there, he has everybody's attention just because of the way he looks, the way he sounds. But I mean,
yeah,
Ted DiBiase used to be like that. You know what I mean? When he first
yeah.
started, when every time he showed up in a ring, or he knew he was about to embarrass somebody, and we know all about all those pranks he used to play.
But to finish my thought of it with Steve Austin is he was a guy who could actually have good matches and was at the top of the company. So, guys like Hogan never had the greatest matches.
yeah,
Stone Cold.
and could be a weekly wrestler, so to say. You know what I mean? Like, there's a chance that we would see Steve Austin every week versus Hogan. So
yeah, he's still in his prime when he was on too. Let's see. Another note I have is it was weird to hear him talk because he did talk like Stone.
Mm-hmm. No, he didn't have the Stone Cold, I should say, just yet.
Well, he didn't, but his voice, I don't know, like he didn't, he sounded like he was, from Texas.
Okay.
It really didn't feel like the ringmaster gimmick.
He didn't have the confidence behind it, maybe, I guess.
I didn't feel like it fit him at all.
Yeah, the ringmaster made no sense, and he's even said that. Like,
I would have thought he would have come out with like a top hat, like he was running the circus.
Well, honestly, he came out looking like Ric Flair, with a robe and like blonde hair. Yeah. It just didn't fit. Yeah, a ringmaster, I don't even know what to expect besides a carnival.
Yeah. So okay, it was a good reveal. Obviously, seeing him in that gimmick was kind of funny. So that's all I have about that. Then we go to the third match. We have Goldust versus Alda Montoya. Basically, I don't have a whole lot of notes on this. Goldust singlet was awful.
Well, if you notice, they started with Goldust in there. This is another thing that we need to talk about too, that we should compare a little bit. They do a lot of corner cutting, and I'm not sure if it's actually what happened on that live or on that feed that night, or if this is network cut. But they started that match with him already in the ring. They didn't even show his entrance, and which obviously we know Goldust. That's one of the big things of his entrance or whatever. But yeah, I just noted that. I was like, yeah, they started with him already in the ring. Obviously, this is a squash match. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I put. Like total jobber match. I know they were hyping Razor Ramon, Goldust. I don't know if I mentioned this when they had that. What was it? A 6-man tag match. Goldust had sent Razor Ramon flowers
to the ring. Yeah, we didn't speak about that, but yeah. That I have that noted in mind right here, not the Razor part, but just how awkward I felt thinking the fact that they're trying to push like a Goldust Razor kind of thing. And I'm not talking wrestling match, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's basically what they were alluding to.
Nothing against that, just in the wrestling world in 1996, it was edgy. It was different.
It was real edgy for the time.
Edgy, different, but yet I think honestly, it lasted longer than I thought it would, but I really think that they were, I don't know, this is my opinion, but I think they were trying to embarrass him, Dustin Rhodes, that is, because it leads back to his daddy's gimmick, when he came from NWA, WCW to WWF, he went from a solid pair of trunks to polka dots.
Yeah.
And I know that he doesn't say anything about it, but just, I feel like there was something there, maybe not, I could be wrong, but the fact that in 1996, like I said, the edgy gimmick that was going on And to write about it now, it's just really weird how they were pushing it. Really,
Yeah.
they were pushing it hardcore.
The other notes I have about it is, at least there were some moves in the match.
Yes, yeah. Dustin can work, man.
Yeah,
He
yeah, he
today
really
he's still working today. He can work.
I put a note that I really, I know Goldust is a pretty big figure, pretty known, but I thought his prime years were kind of wasted on that gimmick. They
Absolutely.
just made
That's
him.
what I'm saying. I feel like so that's kind of leads to my point.
They should have just made him Dustin
What
Rhodes.
was wrong? Yeah,
Dustin
what was wrong with the cowboy Dustin or the natural? I'm sorry,
And
you know what I mean? There
yeah,
was
you
nothing
would,
wrong with that gimmick, and he kicked butt, and
that was the natural thing to do. This is Dusty Rhodes' son.
yeah.
He's the next big thing. Like,
Well, the rumor mail that, and I've heard it from Dustin Rhodes, but this is could be just him saying he never got a chance to get pushed or work with Hogan because Hogan said his arms were too skinny. Now that's just
said what?
his arms were too skinny. That's what Hogan said. That's why Dustin never got a push in WWF and never got to be better than what this gimmick was. But that could be all bull, that could be just blowing smoke or whatnot.
Well,
I could see it. I could believe it. On the other hand, though, don't get me wrong. But I mean, I know this from watching, and we've talked about this on a previous taping that you and I did way back when. I'm a pretty big fan of the old school Dustin Rhodes, dude. He could work.
Well,
Back when he was trying to prove himself for his daddy, dude. He was a a good wrestler, and he still is. But
he was a big guy,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he didn't have a bodybuilder's
no,
body.
he wasn't a body guy.
Way better technical wrestler. So it just depends how you presented him. If you just tried to present him as an overpowering monster, yeah, he's not going to beat Hulk Hogan, but a guy who is a better technical wrestler, if you presented him that way, it would be believable. But yeah, I know also too things have changed, in the 80s, and I guess this is the 90s, but you know that era was like the Arnold Schwarzenegger, the biggest,
Yeah,
most
yeah,
muscular guy, was the strongest, best fighter. Now we know speed plays a factor.
it's totally different. Yeah,
A guy can be huge, but if he can't move,
right.
UFC and things like that have taught us that you don't have to just be some muscled out guy to be strong, or that doesn't even necessarily make you a good fighter.
Right.
And
And
really,
what makes that sign it or kind of not believable in a way to me too also, Brian, is that fact that, like we said, let's look at Shawn Michaels. He's not a big dude.
yeah,
He wasn't a body guy. He wasn't a tall, big,
yeah,
muscular cat. He was athletic as heck, but
yeah.
to say that Dustin's too skinny, armed or whatever to wrestle Hogan or the big dogs, but yet you're gonna put an athletic guy that's shorter and
Brett,
just as skinny, if not skinnier. It just didn't make sense to me. I felt like that there was more to that than just
sure.
his look.
I know Hogan always gets thrown under the bus for like the backstage politics. Obviously, you and I weren't there, so it's hard to tell how much of that's true. But if some of the stuff that's been said about him is true, that would make sense. And wrestling is a lot about the look too, so I do kind of understand that. And like I said, I don't think audiences were as smart, I guess, as they are now about actual real combat. It's like, you know, 80s, you had Sylvester Stallone and Arnold as two big, muscle heads beating everybody up. Now,
Yeah.
you have like John Wick, Keanu
Yep.
Reeves.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly what you said. The
Even though they're
faster,
all
the
unrealistic, John Wick's probably looks more realistic than
sure.
Arnold did.
Yeah.
And Reeves is a
But
big.
obviously, we're talking wrestling though, and you would think that would make more sense. Exactly what we said, but man, sometimes them bookers I think they played favorites a lot more than we'd know, and
Well, and I feel like if he was in his brother's age now, he probably would be pushed like he should have been pushed. But
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you're right. If he was Cody's age, he'd be up there. I think so. I mean, he's still doing work, man. He's still doing the Canadian Destroyer, which is basically holding a man in the pile driver or tombstone position and doing a flip. So
dude.
yeah, I mean, he's 50 years old and doing that. I mean, that's just amazing. Let's move on to this main event, Brian, and talk about. Was it the main event? Yeah, it was the main event. Sorry, and talk about what they did for this main event. I thought it was crappy, but go ahead. I mean, it's a good match, but let's talk about what happened.
Well, before we get to the main event, let's go. We had the Shawn Michaels press conference.
Oh yeah, we forgot about the. Yep, you're right. You're
That's
right.
the
My fault. I
moment
got that.
we've
Yeah.
all been waiting for.
Everybody in the world was waiting for what he was gonna say, huh?
Just I thought it looked really cheesy. The press conference looked very fake.
Yeah.
Now I'd have to go back to 1996.
That's what I say. 96 though, that might have looked cool. I can't really. I can't remember.
Now definitely looked really fake. Wrestlers were like wishing him luck. I thought that was kind of Razor and Diesel, and then
Which is his buddies.
You're right. Owen Hart like said he was going to come after him. So
yeah, Owen Hart was out to get him. Yeah,
only one. But to me, it's weird to see like Razor Ramon acting like a nice guy. Like I don't think like a face for that character.
To me, he never was a face, even though he was a crowd pleaser and everybody liked him. He was the bad guy. That's what he always was.
How can he be the bad guy and be like a?
How can you throw? Yeah,
but you're a face that
right. How can you throw a toothpick at somebody's face and be a good
guy? I also note they make fun of Mean Gene again.
Yep.
For making you call the hotline for info, about stuff. And I wrote that it was kind of ironic because, the WWF obviously wasn't giving anything away.
Right.
Sorry. So making someone call a hotline when you're not giving anything away.
Yeah. It's silly. It was silly, but yeah, look, I wanted to ask you, and I remember vaguely, or pretty good, I should say, actually, about the hotline back in the day. What was your thoughts on the hotline? Did you think it was a good idea, or did you think that this was just like they should be making fun of this?
I have no idea. I remember him running the commercials, but obviously I wasn't going to call the hotline.
I
weren't going to let me spend $1.99 a minute or whatever.
I got you. I made the mistake a couple of times and paid for it, I should say, of calling it, and I thought it was pretty cool, but it was always the lead on, pay another $1 to find out a little bit more. And, in that time, obviously we're talking a no social media, no cell phone kind of era. That was huge in my opinion, because, the other company might have been making fun of it, but to do it and then to actually have a service where you're making money off of people calling just to hear somebody probably recorded saying this is what might happen. You know what I mean? Like, golly, that's pretty smart. I just thought it.
How would it be too when like wrestlers started jumping shit, because like, oh, who's leaving? That would
yeah. But I felt like there was a little bit of jealousy in a way, don't you?
The WWF comes off as very jealous, in my opinion.
Almost more than once, yeah.
And you could say giving away the Raw results is more petty, but
a little bit. But then again,
it is, and it was, I think, more destructive. But to dedicate multiple segments of your show to
that's money wasted, time. I mean, think about this, Brian. Let's go back. We're at the end now of 2 episodes of 2 weeks of Raw now, and we've talked about almost more skits and not than we have matches.
Right.
That's sad. I mean, you've got talent just rotting away in the back. I know that they're at this time, house shows are huge. A lot of the talent's separated on house shows, a lot of the talent's on, the tape shows, yada, yada, yada. But in my opinion, you're spending millions of dollars. I know maybe because it might work and you're going to draw some fans off of a little bit of comedy, but yet, in my opinion, as a wrestling fan, my favorite wrestler's sitting in the back playing cards because you're doing this, and
Yeah,
I'd rather see him wrestle than watch this.
and you're drawing attention to your competition too. So
Yeah,
instead of just
you're
ignoring them, we're the only game in town. Now you're letting people know there is another game in town.
and it goes back to the old clickbait, like we talked about. There's a lot of like you said, the WCW crowd's a lot more older, looks more mature-ish, but yet when you're at home and you're flipping through and they're playing these silly skits and you got the other option now, I'm telling you, unless you're a little bit younger than I'd say maybe a teenager, we should say, you're going to flip that channel and go to the other product. This is just
Like
bad stuff.
when you're a little kid too, you always want to do stuff that the older kids are doing.
Yeah, you look up to the older generation. Yeah.
Excuse me. And just to go back real quick, like when Bischoff would give the Raw results away, he's just saying, oh, by the way, this he total is taking 25 seconds to do more damage than they're doing with a 5-minute skit that looks horrible. So
yeah, exactly. And for them just to be saying it, we're still watching live action as they're putting over or putting under, we should say, the other product. We're still watching wrestlers wrestle as they're doing that, and that's
And as a kid, to be honest, obviously I grew up in the Hulk Hogan's prime days and Macho Man. If I'm watching a show and being the age, I was watching it at that time, if somebody's saying, hey, Macho Man and Hogan are on this channel, I'm going to be like, oh, I'd rather watch them anyways. Where are they at?
Exactly. No matter what the age is or whatnot. But let's get this main event here so we can hop into Nitro.
So match 4 is a taped replay of In Your House, like they did last week. It's the British Bulldog with Jim Cornette and Bret Hart. I really like this match. I
loved this match. This match was well done. I've heard Cornette talk about it more than once, but my only flaw, before I let you go any further, Brian, and this is what I wanted to point out, this is 2 weeks in a row, dude, that they've got a taped match on their episode.
This is too.
I mean, you're struggling already. This is not a bad main event, but honestly, if you want to flip through what we're about to, or see what we're about to talk about next, this falls right in the middle or whatever. It doesn't fall as a main event on the next,
The only thing I can say about this is you're actually showing one of your pay-per-view matches live on TV, so you are giving something away.
Okay. Oh, wait, time out.
Live, it would have been on another level. So, and as we said before, this is the 90s. Social media obviously had the internet. There were probably some sites that you could have got the result. So to a lot of people,
maybe. But let me ask you this though: you're a fan that was at that event, at this Bret Hart and Bulldog match. Mm-hmm. You already know what happens. You're at home watching this. How mad are you gonna? I'd be mad. I'd be like, dude, I've already seen this. Like I was there or whatnot. Like man.
True, that's probably a relatively small amount of people, and there may be people too. Like if I was at the event, I might be like, "Hey, can I?"
But then again, look for yourself.
So there's some of that. Just I don't remember in '96 how much stuff was available. I'm sure there were wrestling sites that people already knew who won this. And I could be wrong, but I think they kind of give away the winner of the match even before they show the match. I can't remember the comment that like Vince makes, but I feel like he alludes to Bret Hart winning the match before
if I remember right, he says something and it kind of almost leads towards like a promotion of Michael's Hart, if I'm not right.
Yeah, so
something in that realm.
I remember going into it. Obviously, I didn't see it before, but I feel like I already knew, Hart was going to win. Right, but all that aside, this had a lot less cutting than the hog pin match.
No commercial Brit, not as many commercial Brits, right?
You got more of it. You had Cornette with the Santa Claus racket. And then obviously Brett gets split open and is
Now
bleeding
let's talk about
everywhere.
that. Let's talk about that. First off, he gets hit in the head from
Mhm.
Cornette with the racket, which was brilliant. And I love how Cornette always describes how he would hit people with the racket. Like if he liked you, he hits you a certain way. And I'm pretty sure he liked Brett on this night. But I don't know. Did your if you watch the network, it gives you a graphic warning.
Yeah,
That
before this match started.
before this match started,
Yeah.
and I know I'm pretty sure I heard it on a few podcasts, but this wasn't supposed to happen. I don't think there was supposed to be blood, and Brett went ahead with this. And if you watch it, when he's on the outside, it takes him a second to get that going. But man, once it gets going, bro.
I couldn't tell where he did it. I assume he did it when he got thrown into the steps.
Exactly. So when he gets thrown into the steps, if you watch, he gets thrown into the steps. He falls off to kind of, if you're looking at the steps to the right, the cameraman is on him for just a minute, and then the camera goes to the bulldog. Then the camera, I think, goes to Cornette, back to bulldog, and then bam, he's bleeding. But it was very quick. It was done very well. Well, obviously, like you said, it took you a second to. If you don't know, you're thinking right off, and especially if you're not sitting front row right there, you're thinking, boom, he hit the steps wrong. He cut his head open. I mean, it's perfect.
You could tell he was laying there and his hair was kind of covering his face, so he could easily just, stuck his hand.
And then another giveaway, only the last giveaway I'll give, I think it's his left wrist. I might have to look at it again. But he has, obviously, probably where he had the blade taped. The tape has come off a little bit after that. And when he's sitting there and you see the pile of blood, if you look, you can tell it's probably where he peeled it to get the blade. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but that's what it looks like to me anyways. And I think
that's where he cut himself. And then when he throws him the opposite direction, into the guardrail, he's laying down, then all of a sudden
they don't mention the puddle. You notice that? They didn't mention the blood right there. Yeah. I noticed it before they even said anything. And I thought, damn. And I know for a fact, because I've heard this from a million of the talent on podcasts, that Vince wasn't a fan of blood. Vince never was a fan of blood. And
it doesn't really go with the theme. I mean, your little kid cartoon, and then this
one bump to the stairs. Bump to the stairs, though. That's another thing. Like I get it. If he hits it wrong, yeah, that could happen. But a lot of times nowadays, when you see a cut job or whatnot, they work at that. You know what I mean? They get you a little bit more involved to know that, yeah, he's going to split his head open on the cage or a weapon or whatnot. Not necessarily the stairs, So that was different to see that. But I remember, and like I said, going back on this match, I know that I don't think this was really technically planned. And like I said, I know for a fact Vince McMahon's not a fan of blood.
Well, I thought it added to the match.
Dude, 100%. Yeah.
Bleeding like crazy. Some other notes. The Bulldog, much better wrestler than I ever remember him being. I mean, super athletic, super strong.
Man, he just
could have easily been that.
They tried to give him a push a few times. I mean, he was, like you said, he was just a big dude. But I think at one point, honestly, and this is just my opinion, he got too big. I think that it just kind of messed his game up, or his, his rhythm and things, because he got really freaking big there towards the end.
From what I remember hearing, and I don't want to say anything bad about somebody who's passed, but I think he had some substance issues too.
Yeah,
during his prime. But I mean, the guy could move like crazy, looked like $1 million, powerful, strong. Bret Hart.
He had the package for sure, yeah. And then obviously we know he's well trained. His father-in-law was Stu Hart, so we know that he knows what he's doing.
And they do kind of add to the drama too with the sister and wife. So that adds to it, but. Really,
is she pulling for the brother or pulling for the husband? That was, I thought that was brilliant in my opinion. I mean,
I got another note about the blood too. Like once they get back in the ring, I mean, it's all over the ring.
Dude, did you see the Bulldogs' trunks, man? They were like blood ridden for sure. Yeah.
I was like, he'll have to pitch those bad boys.
Yeah, well, who knows? He might have saved those, knowing him, because I mean, this was a historic match for these two. I mean,
Bret Hart wins, obviously, sets up, I believe, a match between him and The Undertaker. Um, great, great match. Of all the shows I've watched so far, easily the best match.
yeah,
The only negative I could really say about it is it was cut and it wasn't live.
that's the only negative I got on the same end too, brother. Is that we didn't get this live, and out of right now, this will be the end of 3 shows we've watched in 2 weeks now. This has been from beginning to end the only thing that's been complete, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
head
Yeah.
to toe. I mean, it had
Felt
a
like
little. It had it all. It had drama. It had the blood. You know, it had obviously a little bit of technical wrestling, and then the dramatic finish. The dramatic finish.
the sister wife thing.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't really know the background of what the feud was,
But let's say you're a new subscriber or a new flip through
yeah,
person,
watch
you get
that.
caught on that match, that story still tells itself even if
Yeah.
you're brand new to the situation, and that's what I love about it. And I just wish that it's sad that they had, like you said, to be a cut in from In Your House. Like, why couldn't we get 2 guys from the back to display this same kind of story at a live event? I don't get it. But anyways, that wraps up Raw, Brian. You know what we always do when we wrap an episode up? We've got to rate them with some bacon. I'll go ahead and ask you first. How many pieces of bacon is this Raw episode getting?
This is a tough one for me because I did like that match, but that was the only thing about it.
I gotcha.
So I'd maybe give it 2.5.
Ooh, okay.
But the whole 2.5 is for that match. The rest of the show's a 0.
All right, well, you went way higher than I expected, and I'm 100%. We're on the same choo-choo train rolling out of this town. That match made this whole show. It made me forget about the silliness, even though they came back at the end with another Ted Turner.
I had that down too.
Yeah, I didn't mean to skip you out on that, but it came back with another silly skit again. Honestly, Brian, in my opinion, that match made the whole show. I forgot about a lot of the craziness. I did remember a little bit of the gold dust. Yeah, it was okay. Ahmed Johnson, powerhouse, whatever. The opener, as we spoke, not a freaking opener, but I'm going to give it 1 piece of bacon today. And that 1 piece of bacon solely on that last match that we watched that wasn't even part of that show.
Yeah, well, I just rated it high because I thought that match in itself, I mean, if I would have to watch the full match, but that could be like a, 5-star match.
Gotcha.
If I watched the whole thing, but you're right. The rest of the show was awful. The Shawn Michaels announcing he's coming to the Royal Rumble was not anything.
Just add-ins. It was a lot of add-in nonsense that none of it didn't all flow. It did not flow at all. We know that. And it just was like, pick a piece here, put it in, pick a piece there, put it in, but we're gonna kill it at the end. And they did. They killed it at the end.
Really, that last match fit more on Nitro than I feel like it.
That's what I was speaking. Let's take that match from that show and we and put it into Nitro. Like I said, that would be a badass opener. Would be a main event maybe, or even good in the middle. That would fit anywhere right now. This era, 96.
That
you know what I mean?
That would work now for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now we're gonna keep things rolling, Brian, here on the Eeez N Beez Brunch, and we're gonna get into episode 2 of WCW's Nitro, January 8th of 1996. It went down in Charleston, South Carolina. The commentating booth contained Mongo himself. I think he had his dog again. Eric Pepe. We had Eric Bischoff and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Another great house. Looked like the crowd was full again there in Charleston. They're still hating on WWF right off the gate, But I want to note this, Brian. Did you see at the very beginning of this episode? They pan in to the 3 commentators, and I can't recall what Mongo and Eric or who was even talking, but for some odd reason, Bobby Heenan slipping the camera off.
I didn't pick that up, but now that you mention it,
He
I
does it twice within the first little.
I'd have to go back and rewatch it.
At the
But now
very beginning,
that-
and it's not bluntly, but he's like doing the old, itching my nose kind of thing. But he does it twice, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? Caught me completely off guard, and I was like, man, I wonder if Ryan caught that or not. So obviously he didn't. Go back, check that out, dude. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it's
I feel like
a
I
shot
remember
at WWF, if it's a shot at WCW, or if it's just somebody else that he has a check this out. I'm gonna flip the camera off this week, kind of thing.
Well, now that you mention that, I do remember him doing something odd at the beginning of that show, but I didn't watch it close enough to pick that up. So I'll maybe go back and look at that, see if I can pick that up. But that's interesting. Who knows what that was about?
I don't know either. Yeah, it'd be cool to know what the story behind that is. But that was my very first note. I wanted to mention that to you. Like I said, this was in Charleston. It started out hot. Once again, this whole episode, we won't touch on it all the way through it, but I'll just say it right here off the top. Eric is pushing this WCW product hot and heavy this episode, talking about the success that they've got and who they've got and just everything good. And why not? You should be, right? That's given. But I just noted that. I noted also that for the second week in a row, I'm digging Mongo on commentary. It's just something about a different voice, maybe, I guess. I don't know. Because like I said on the last episode, a lot of people gave him a bad rap, not only just for wrestling, but for and I think him and Heenan mesh really well. It's just it's pretty good. And then the last thing I'm going to say before we get into these matches was
like how.
What's that?
I was just going to say, I like how at the beginning of the show, they lay out the framework of what you're going to see on the show.
Yes. That's kind of what I was exactly going to say. And what I dig the most is how they promote their show. They tell you what they got going on. And on top of that, they were giving out pretty much us fans back at that time a bonus by promoting heavy the Clash of Champions, which was coming up at the end of the month, and we'll cover that going forward. But explaining to us how they weren't going to charge us to watch this pay-per-view event, basically, and putting themselves over WWE. It was just right out the gate, man, and it was all episode long, and I thought it was pretty cool how they did that. But anyways, let's get into the beginning. And you know what I like to talk about, Brian? That's the openers. You got to open strong. You got to open heavy and hard. This one wasn't too bad. It was Chris Benoit taking on Alex Wright, and Benoit obviously had the loose cannon Brian Pillman with him at ringside. This match, dude, is the way to start. I'm serious. Alex Wright's a no name at this time. He was just supposed to be kind of maybe a squash match in a way, but he had a lot of talent, And I can tell you this, dude, those two worked pretty good together. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good match. I thought Alex Wright was underrated. Benoit, super intense. I felt like the WWF really didn't have any young guy like that. He really looked like he was a mean, like you alluded to last time, him looking stiff. I just think he just made it look that realistic. Yeah, I really like this match. It was intense.
A little stiff. I think it was a little stiff, but we talked about that last time. I think that's just how it goes when you wrestle Benoit. It's going to be stiff a little bit, no matter what you think.
Yeah, I wrote a note. I think I said this last time. Pillman really does look like a nut. He does.
Yep, and I've got it. I've got that written down in my notes as well. And then also I noted that Eric said, commenting on Chris Benoit and Pillman together, and I don't know where this came from, but he noted that they look like the Young Guns. And we know the Young Guns is obviously an old tag team back in the day, but it was just weird that he brought that up and he kind of made it there at the beginning of the match. But yes, you're right. Pillman's a little crazy. He actually gets involved in this a little bit, choking Alex Wright. I noted in here, man, he looks nuts.
Yeah,
just something ain't right with that cat. Yeah, no, he flips the crowd off a couple of times, yells at him. I wish I could have seen his face when he took his sunglasses off at one time, but all in all, I think he's working that gimmick to a T. But meanwhile, Benoit And Alex Wright have a very decent opener, in my opinion. After all things happening, um, Alex Wright got a huge crossbody on the outside, dude. And I don't know, something about leaping from the top all the way to the outside gets me every time. Like even if I watch it now, I'll be like, like something bad's gonna happen, you know. And these guys obviously know what they're doing, but
I have one other thing. I don't know if you picked this up. Eric alludes to the WWF raising their pay-per-view prices.
yes. That's what that's kind of tends into the why he keeps bringing up Clash of Champions is free. You know what I mean? These guys are and Mongo jumps in on that too. Mongo was on board with him, and you know they just keep bringing up these guys keep raising their prices with worst talent or worst product, you know, whatever. And
they point out the theme that I've been saying all along is the WWF's giving nothing away, and they're kind of saying, look, you know, we're giving stuff away on our weekly TV show. We're having basically a pay-per-view for free. So I think it's a good job promoting the brand.
But in the end here, Brian, Chris Benoit gets the win over Alex Wright. Like I said, this was a great match and a great way to start. Let's compare real quick, like we always do every week. Let's go back to what we were talking about just a little bit ago on Raw, episode 2. They started out with Jeff Jarrett and Hakushi. That match or this match, what would you stop clicking your clicker on the TV at?
Like I said, not even close. The Nitro match was by far better. I don't even think it compares.
I 100% agree. I mean, like we talked about just a little bit ago, it's just something about some of the outfits, some of the things they were doing at that time versus what we have going on here on Nitro just wasn't comparable. Keeping things moving here, let's get into the second match, Brian. They had, for the second week in a row, Lord Steven Regal taking on one of my old favorites, Eddie Guerrero. And Eddie's a little bit green still at this time to the WCW scene, as well as Lord Steven Regal. Even though he's, you know, been in wrestling for a long time, he's still new to this scene. They kind of talk about that at the beginning. They also talk about the size difference right off the bat about how much bigger Regal is versus. Did you note that?
Look, Regal was a really big guy.
He's just a tall dude. He's he's like 6'2", 6'3", 6. I don't know how tall he is, but
super muscular. But
yeah, he's not a body guy. He's just a big guy. Yeah.
I could buy him being a champion
sure,
because of his technical ability. But yeah, I did notice the size. I have a note too about Eddie's haircut.
The classic party.
I feel like that was very out of style even back in 1980. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was the only person still kind of holding on to the. Now, don't get me wrong, the long hair has always been around in wrestling, but this was like a touched up mullet, not a mullet, but a touched up mullet in a way. And like, yeah, he could rock it, but I think he was about the only one that could, and it still didn't.
Looked very 80s.
Anyhow, as this match went on, Brian, it's amazing to note these guys' careers going forward from here. You know, Eddie Guerrero had an amazing career. Obviously, we lost him way too soon. And then Lord Steven Regal still around to this day as he's running a lot of things over there, helping out at NXT. But these two in this night was great, dude. It was a very technical matchup. Eddie Guerrero showed the crowd that he knew what he was doing. You know, there was a little bit of high flying kind of stuff, but not as much. What I noted was all the great reversals we were seeing. I mean, it was one after another with those two. But sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I like the end. Eddie won with like a sneak pin.
Yes, but I was gonna get you into that. What was crazy was if you noticed at the beginning of the match, I can't remember if it was Heenan or Mongo. They mentioned that Regal was undefeated. He hadn't lost yet, and going into this match, Eddie Guerrero on the same page, I guess, hadn't lost, had a good winning streak going. And yeah, he got caught off guard, and Eddie Guerrero gets the quick sneak roll up 1, 2, 3. Man, this could have been your opener, in my opinion. I mean, that was that good.
Yeah.
You got the same kind of thoughts, right?
Yeah, really good match. The only other note I had is like Regal Strikes. I thought looked really brutal and were really good. Both these guys, excellent workers. So yeah, if you would have known what they became, this could have even been higher on the card. But really good match.
Gotcha. After that, we had an interview with old Mean Gene. That's right. He had Sting and Luger, Brian.
Yes.
Now, once again, I'll note Sting's hair a little darker,
Yes.
like he was growing it out. But also in this interview, uh, Mean Gene kind of took the reins, and it was like kind of weird to me because he was like, "Hey, Sting, don't you got something to tell or ask Luger?" And
Yeah.
Luger didn't want nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
Sting seemed like he was really interested in getting an answer out of Luger, and they go back and talk about what cost Sting the title match where Luger could not help him, and he blamed that his knee was there. I'm not too sure about this. They're pushing the tag team. It's obvious this isn't going to work, Brian. You can see it already. I mean, I don't know how well they sold it, but to me, Sting's way more believable than Luger, and you could just tell that this wasn't going to last.
Yeah, they form a tag team. They're the angle they're trying to push is if Luger's really a heel or not.
Yeah,
Is he really Sting's buddy, or is he
out for himself?
secretly sabotaging him? Yeah, out for himself. Thought they did a good job with it. I thought Sting was a really good promo here. I don't understand why they always say he wasn't a good promo.
Yeah, I don't either. I liked every bit of it. Like I
Yeah.
said, he was more believable than Luger. And then
Yeah.
Luger obviously had to come up with a far fetched story, but like him even trying to tell that story just was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like that's all you could come up with. I know you had time to figure this out. But anyways, after that, we moved into the next match of the night, and believe it or not, it was a banger, dude. It was DDP and Sting, and this once again, I mean, like we've talked, Brian, this from beginning to end here, we've had 3 matches now with 6 wrestlers that were better than almost the whole entire last show, minus maybe
The last two.
the main event, yeah.
Yeah.
So the crowd was going nuts for Sting, but what I thought was funny, Brian, was how the match started. After Sting got his coat off and stuff, DDP was making a point to tell Nick Patrick that the referee, hey, you haven't checked his gear. You need to check his legs, check his boots and stuff. And as the ref went to do that, DDP had the cigar in his mouth, takes the cigar and smashes it in Sting's eye. Dude, that was an awesome way to start, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a good match. A couple notes I have. DDP's tights looked horrible.
Yeah, they didn't fit him, did they? It was something about the collar scheme just
Yeah,
didn't match his like gimmick, in my opinion, or his
not a good
style.
look. Sting looked really good, but in that era, I thought he looked good in almost every match. Weird for me to see like DDP as like a heel, because most of the time I remembered him
As
was
yeah.
like a main eventer, baby face. Now he's a mid card heel, so that was kind of strange. Um, I noticed they, hyped the Clash of the Champions again,
Yep.
so that came up. Yeah, and Singh just super athletic in this match. Um, and
Dude, what
then
about the crossbody? Once again, like I just talked about it a few minutes ago, the crossbody that Sting did on the outside. Dude, he
yeah,
was so high up there. Like, honestly, dude, for a minute, I thought he was gonna hit the rail. Like, that's how
yeah,
he was up there.
he had a great like. Seemed like he could do almost anything. Like he was big enough. He was believable. He could go against the big guys, but he was athletic enough. He could entertain. He could go off the top ropes. He could go outside, but he could also do some submission stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
just
know. I did note this too, Brian. During the match, Mongo mentioning that Sting's performance was a little off because he thought he was distracted with the Luger situation. What do you think? I didn't feel like it was, but that was brought up. So
that was probably just the announcers pushing a storyline.
that's kind of what I thought. I mean, obviously, to me, he could have went without saying that because that just puts thought in our head, obviously going forward. Well, that we know that something's going to happen. I mean, I would rather not know, kind of in a way, Brian, than know. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather let's build it on TV versus the commentators are gonna give away hints or secrets, and you know what I mean?
They're trying to push the doubt, and that's the suspense is
Yeah.
isn't he? And they're just pushing that. But yeah, the last thing I have is I guess the ending. I don't know if you want me
Well,
to
I'll let you finish here. What I have though here, honestly, my last note is this has been a great matchup. And this could have been the main event, honestly. If we didn't have what we were about to talk about next, this could have been a main event. I mean, Sting main events anything, but DDP was on a okay run right here with being, like you said, a heel and stuff. And this was a great matchup. Obviously, Sting winning the match with his famous Scorpion, and like I said, the crowd was on. It set up almost perfect, Brian, for the main event. The crowd was on edge, ready to rock. Stinger's got them going, and then it sets up for what we had next, and that was what we talked about. They mentioned throughout the whole show, promoted it perfectly. We knew about it at the end of last week's episode, and that was Ric Flair, Arn Anderson versus Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, the Mega Powers, but not really.
The last thing I had to say about the DDP Sting match is my last note on that was I was actually surprised it went that long.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was supposed to, Brian. I think that cut into this next match's time. I really do. Just by the way this match kind of ended.
Just because, Sting was a main eventer, DDP was mid card, and obviously if it was 2 years later, that would make sense. It would have been the main event.
I will say this, if you go back and watch that match a little bit closer, I would imagine Sting was calling that match, but man, I've seen DDP doing a lot of talking, and I know it wasn't like bad mouthing or nothing, but I was just like, man, I just don't, at this time of Sting's wrestling career, there's no way that he's not calling that match, but maybe I was wrong. You have to go back and check that out. So anyways, that's set up for what was next, the main event, like I said. And Brian, I have written down right here, it was a mix between cheers and boos as Ric Flair and Arn Anderson came out. What did you think?
That's kind of to be expected.
Or was it woos? We don't know, right?
We don't know. I have a note that he came out in his purple robe, which looked sweet to me. I did like the purple robe.
Now, what color trunks was he wearing? Do you remember?
I think they were purple. Were they not?
No.
Okay. What color were they? I'll start writing this down when I see him. What color were they?
I don't know. I haven't written down. That's why I wanted to know if you did. Because we know, he loses, right?
I thought he had a purple robe.
I don't think they were purple. I'm pretty sure they're blue.
And he had a purple like tights and boots. I'm almost positive he did, but
maybe you're right. Maybe I'm colorblind.
So I don't know what the purple.
So maybe purple is. Well, see where you are talking tag team though too. My theory is only singles. I'm keeping my theory to singles matches.
Could be.
I could be wrong though. But anyways, so obviously after that, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man were out next. I felt like the crowd. I don't know. It could be edited. It just didn't seem as much. I couldn't tell if it was boos, cheers, or what, but it wasn't as loud as I thought it should be. You know what I mean?
I feel like Flair too is the type of heel that people would cheer too. So
and then did you notice this before the match started? Macho Man getting up on the turnbuckle, they were booing him.
I did not notice.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. It was before the match started. Anyways, the match started pretty good. Obviously, Flair wanted Hogan in first. Hogan come in. It started pretty good, but man, that chop that Flair hit Hogan with, holy cow, dude. That's not like I got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
But here's what blows my mind. His chops all sound like that, right?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, man, I don't see any kind of imprint on most of the people he does it to. But you turn the page to today, dude, these guys leave the ring with handprint bruises on their chest. It's crazy. So it must be. I mean, he must be a perfectionist at that or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do it with minimal damage. He does it enough. Yeah, I would think he would have perfected it. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
much. So Hogan controls the first part. Obviously, this this wasn't a bad match. There was a lot of spots. We got to see Flair's famous
mhm.
3 moves that he pulls off, of course, and then I'm not a fan of how it ended, but what did you think how this match ended?
um, just a couple notes I have. I did notice Flair calling spots.
Oh yeah, my fault. Yeah, Flair called this whole match, even
Uh,
when he wasn't in the ring.
I was surprised I saw Hogan actually do a few wrestling moves
He
in
took
this.
some bumps in this. He
Uh,
actually took some bumps, and
so
yeah,
so that was
more than a leg drop.
yes. Hogan beats Arn. It was a good match. Nothing any.
They did work again on Flair, or excuse me, on Macho's arm, right? That was
I
another thing
believe
I
so.
noted.
He's
I
wearing the
noted,
bandage. Yeah, he's
he
wearing the bandage. He
it
sells
wasn't
that.
as focused on like it was last week, but
Right.
it's still a noted to talk about it again if you didn't notice.
Sure, yeah, and it's a tag match, so I mean, I kind of can understand
How
it.
about that spine buster slam arm put on Hogan?
Oh, threw him through
I,
the ring.
I was shocked that he let him do it. Really, I thought for sure it'd be Macho Man because
Right.
Hogan wouldn't take a bump like that, right? Well, he did, man, and it looked great, in my opinion.
Yeah, it did.
Um,
That move looks good. Period. Though it really does look like it would be devastating and hurt you.
Obviously, the big boot is how this thing ends with Hogan. But after the match, Brian, this is why I was talking about. I think that match last time
Mm.
went a little longer than it was supposed to because the way the run-ins happened at the end here with obviously the four horsemen coming trying to save the day. They seemed late again, but the Dungeon of Doom was right there
Yeah.
with Zodiac, Giant, who am I forgetting? Kevin Sullivan.
Yep.
It didn't. I won't say it didn't work in my eyes, but it was too much. I hadn't even processed the fact that how they ended that match, let
Mhm.
alone now you. I expected Pillman and Benoit, right? I kind of put aside the Dungeon of Doom, didn't think about them, which is great because they shocked me. But I just didn't like how it ended.
Yeah.
And rushing what was it 5 6 dudes down there within a 5 minute span, and you're telling two different stories in the same ring with almost the same people. It was weird.
Pretty convoluted. I noticed again the Zodiac holds the Giant back.
I was gonna say, and then note again, yeah, you same thing you said last episode. The Zodiac's holding this guy back, which I don't know. Is
Yeah.
that is that is that the Zodiac's because he's gonna be joining Hogan later on? Like we don't know that watching this, but like it didn't make sense. You think the Giant would be able to destroy that guy, right?
Yeah.
Throw the Zodiac out of the way and do what he wants. I don't know. Maybe they're saying that this is the only way they can tame him. What do you think?
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out as time goes on. Um, but then the Giant does choke slam Savage and Hogan, right?
Yeah, he choke slams both at the end, and that after that, that's when the
Zodiac.
Zodiac is like back it off or whatever. But
Not a good match. I'm with you, or not a bad match. Average. I am with you. The ending could have been better.
yeah, here's my situation. You're you're telling a story with Macho Man and Flair and Anderson, kind of right. You throw Hogan into the mix. We know we've had the Giant kind of show his face the last 2 weeks, but it's confusing, especially if you're trying to draw in new watch or new fans. When at the end you have two different fractions with kind of the same storyline, but yet that is the only that I mean, it was a good match. Arn and Rick worked like they always work. Macho got a couple spots in. Hogan got all of his stuff in like he always does. It was a okay finish, but like I said, I didn't get a chance to process it because there was so much else.
Yeah.
And like you said,
Again,
they diluted it. They diluted the fact that the stars in this match were Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Macho Man and Hogan, they diluted that when they brought in the Dungeon of Doom, in my opinion. It erased that whole main event, and all you could think about was like, okay, well, obviously the Giant's going to be fighting either Hogan or Macho, right?
Well, from what I get out of it is, the Giant is in the Dungeon or still have beef with Hogan, so that's kind of why they're out there. And then Macho's still mad because the Horsemen,
right, got screwed on the belt deal, and yeah.
But I agree that's kind of too much at the end.
Just
one of them running out would have been fine.
Now let's not forget too, Brian. On top of that, we also still have Eric Bischoff, just constant, bragging about success of WCW versus the WWF too. So like we're having all this just constant fed at the end, and it was like, man, I was ready to go to the next episode. Unfortunately, I wasn't so much ready to see what was going to happen next versus they flooded me, and I didn't. Yeah, I couldn't, accept all that at once at the end. Well, let's wrap this episode up, Brian. Let's talk about this like we always do at the end of every episode. We're gonna rate this thing with some bacon pieces. I'll let you go first, brother. What or how many pieces of bacon you giving this this show?
I'd probably do 3 on this.
Okay.
I think probably the main event was probably the worst match,
And it shouldn't have been. That's what bugs me.
Yeah.
Let's compare it here real quick. That's 2 weeks in a row, right? That Nitro's main event has fell on its face. And this could have been okay. What they should have done was a proper ending. Yeah. Proper ending by finishing off with Hogan and Macho winning. You get the Horsemen out of the ring, which I think this might have been in the works, but it could have been. I could be wrong. And like I said, I lead back to Sting and them. I think they went too long. But you get the 4 Horsemen out of the ring. You let Hogan and Macho do their flexing and their crowd pumping and everything like that. And then you bring in the Dungeon of Doom.
That would have been better.
Way different,
Agreed.
Or you could have even sent Macho to the back too. And Hogan stayed out there just being a pompous, whatever, and I don't know. That's just would have been way better in my opinion. But I'm going to go ahead and rate this thing. I'm going to give her 2.5 pieces of bacon. Would have been 3 if I wouldn't have got so confused at the end. I seriously, like I said, got flooded with too much at once where I felt like this, honestly, from head to toe was a great episode. We rated already the beginning of this versus the beginning of the last one, blew it out of the water. You had big names from start to finish. I will note this, Brian, there was not really a squash match on here.
No,
not at all.
And the undercard matches were all really good. That's why I get it.
Let's be honest. Hell, if you want to rate this thing, either Lord Steven Regal and Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit and Alex Wright might have stole the show.
Yeah, those 2 were interchangeable as the best matches.
They're about an equal match. Yeah.
Even Sting and DDP was pretty.
It was good. Yeah. Little soft in a couple of spots, but man, all in all, that was a great show. Ended really wonky. Brian, it's been fun doing this. For all you watchers out there, stay tuned. We're gonna keep on doing this as long as we can, and as long as Brian's up to it, we're gonna put this on the air. We'll be back with you guys next week with a couple more episodes to rate with some bacon pieces. Until then, it's been Eddie B and Brian, and this is the Eeez N Beez Brunch.